John Salley, welcome back to Vlad TV.
The king is here.
That's right. Let's get into it. It's been a while. It's been some months. A lot of
I know, man. I was like, you letting people sit in my chair like I'm not a regular. What's the hell?
What the hell? All right, but now you're back.
Good.
So let's start off with this. LeBron James recently did a press conference.
I love LeBron James.
They asked him about Kyrie again, and his answer was, why do you keep bringing up Kyrie, but you're not bringing up the photo of Jerry Jones? Now, Jerry Jones was photographed many years ago, I believe in Little Rock, where basically white students were stopping black students from entering the school. And he's right there hanging out with everyone. He actually publicly said that, yes, that is a photo of him. He didn't deny that that's like a Photoshop or whatever else. How do you feel about, number one, the whole Jerry Jones situation, how it's being handled?
Okay. Obviously, it's being handled really well because we don't hear a lot about it. So the spin doctors and whatever is needed to be said and done are putting out small fires where they need to be, and it's nowhere close to the uprising that came against Kyrie. I'm going to say on this show, Kyrie said nothing. That was the thing that got me. So before I was to do any interviews, I had to see what Kyrie said. Mm-hmm. Kyrie said nothing. He posted it, and the reporter went after him for posting it. Now, I got when Kyrie said, yo, don't dehumanize me, right? And everybody said, all Kyrie had to say was this, but that's not Kyrie. Mm-hmm. Kyrie, one, wanted to stop him from being able to attack him, and said, I found out who I was, right? Because he said his name translated back to Yahweh. He realizing he was of the Hebrew faith. And maybe the documentary and the book said tons of things, but I mean, it's been years and years and years of me hearing about European imposters, them adopting and converting to the religion. Years and years of hearing it. I've been hearing it from rabbis. I got tons of video of Orthodox Jewish people denouncing the state of Israel. Tons of it, right?
Yeah, Hasidic Jews don't like the state of Israel.
Don't like.
But more so because based on the Jewish faith, the Jews are not supposed to have a homeland until the Messiah comes back.
Correct.
And since the Messiah has not come back, the Jews should not have a homeland, and that's the whole Hasidic Jew thing. I used to live in a Hasidic Jewish neighborhood in Brooklyn, in Borough Park, and I was not accepted as a Jewish person in that neighborhood. They pretty much just ignored me the whole time. You know, the mainstream Jews and Hasidic Jews are very, very separate.
So when he talks about that, and then we see that Amazon never takes it down. I mean, I watched it.
Well, the CEO of Amazon, who actually is Jewish, just announced that they're not taking it down, and why. And he basically said that on Amazon, there's very differing viewpoints, and we allow those viewpoints to actually run.
Just not the NBA.
What do you mean? Well,
the NBA can't have a viewpoint.
The NBA is a different organization. It's not Amazon.
Right. But you can't have a viewpoint. And that was the deal. You can't have a viewpoint. And they kept, when I saw things and I kept seeing it, I said, okay, this is a trip. One that's even bigger than that is Brett Favre. Brett Favre is bigger than what they're talking about. Well, I was there. It was 1963 or 1957 or something like that.
What, Jerry Jones.
Yeah. I was there in the 50s or 60s, whenever that picture was. Yes, I was there. And then Kyrie, I watched this movie and I think I am a Hebrew. Mm-hmm. But then you got Brett Favre, who they were like, hey, we're going to talk about it and then we're not going to talk about it. So.
And just so everyone knows, Brett Favre scammed a bunch of money
from the state of Mississippi
in order to build a stadium at his old school.
Right. For his daughter.
Yeah.
So this is what I understood when I watched LeBron. First things first. I was so proud of LeBron when I saw that interview. When I saw him tell the guy, hold up, let me get my words out, said what he wanted to say, put the mic down, mic drop, and walk off, that right there, everybody wanting to call LeBron a sellout or call him no, can't. One, he can't be everything to everybody. Two, he's not holding our race on his shoulders. He's only doing his part as a person blessed enough to be born black. So let me say that to those people saying what he should do. That always tripped me out too. Well, all these black people, all these rich people should get together, put money and help the community. I realize that you don't need celebrities to help the community. That's everybody in the community is a celebrity because we come out of nowhere. So all that, y'all should do this, when I realize everybody should do something. I'm just very proud of LeBron for stepping up and saying what he said without fear. That was another thing, man. It's this whole fear thing. And it's not the thinking part. Like, a lot of guys get up on the mountaintop and start yelling and screaming and talking, and they forget that they can get hit with an arrow. I'm watching the Game of Thrones. Like, you got to pay attention to those crossbows. Like, you got to pay attention when you speak it and how. But I think on that, I think LeBron was great, and I think Jerry Jones. Chris Rock had a great saying. I think I said it on the show before. They asked him, what did he think about race in America? And he said, I just think white folks are less crazy. And guys said, what do you mean? He goes, well, my grandfather, they told him he couldn't drink from the water fountain or go to the same schools. Then somebody said, that's crazy. You can't do that. Then they stopped. And he goes, the whole determination was upon the ruling class saying what could happen, what couldn't. And then as time goes on, they realize that a lot of things they do were crazy, stupid, and didn't have any merit. And so as time goes on, it lessens and lessens and lessens and lessens and lessens to this crazy part. But it's not that we change. It's that the ruling class changed. The mentality has changed.
Well, and there was also a lot of those things were being done secretly under the table. There wasn't a lot of promotion of it. There wasn't publicity around it. I felt like the Emmett Till was somewhat of a turning point, where it was like, listen, if you grow up in the North and you weren't around slavery and Jim Crow and the black people in your neighborhood were being treated relatively respectfully, you just didn't think an Emmett Till situation was real.
Right.
But then you saw the pictures, and then at that point you realized, oh my God, it is real. And shout out to Emmett Till's mother, who did what I don't think any parent would ever want to do, and to publicize a picture of your son beaten so badly that he no longer looked human.
Right. Leave the casket open so they
leave the casket open. Take pictures. Everyone, come in. All the press, take as many photos as you want, and put it all out there so the world can see what's really happening down here.
The second major coming of Emmett Till was George Floyd.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
No one believed. Richard Pryor used to make jokes. He always used to make jokes about police brutality, but he used to make tons of jokes about police brutality here in California. And rappers talk about it. Everybody talks about police brutality, what the police were doing to people of color.
Yeah, fuck the police by NWA.
Right. Not until they saw George Floyd's situation did people really totally believe what was happening.
I agree.
And then I started paying attention that the propaganda was so great in America that, they have you believe America is so great. And I'm going to tell you, no place is utopia, right? But the way that we think we are and the way we are two different things. And I'm glad they're understanding that. When I saw this thing about Qatar and they were talking about the World Cup and how they were against this and how you couldn't do this and how you didn't have freedoms to do that and do this. And then all of a sudden there was 5 people killed at a club because they were gay. There was this. All the problems that they were talking about were happening in America.
Well, 500 people died building the stadiums in Qatar, mostly, if not all, immigrants. So that really, you can't excuse that.
Well, you can't, right? But then we would have to not do anything in America, right? Because if you can't, if you're not saying you're supposed to excuse it, look at our past. Look at the past of America.
Yeah, I mean, America's fucked up. And, even the head of the soccer team, the U.S. soccer team, was questioned by an Iranian journalist about, I don't know if you saw that whole thing, where he was like, how do you represent America when black people are treated so badly and the Black Lives Matter movement and so forth? And, the guy actually answered. He goes, well, there's I grew up, I guess, with a white family, so I get to see both sides of it. And yes, we have work to do. And, just like the rest of the world has work to do and so forth. But it's different perspectives and so forth. But back to the Jerry Jones thing, Stephen A. Smith actually defended Jerry Jones.
Yeah. So,
which kind of surprised me. But then again, I don't know their relationship.
I know their relationship.
What is their relationship?
This is the deal. Stephen is a good friend of mine. And he is, everybody should realize he's not paid for. He believes what he believes. He does. He believes what he believes. And he has put enough money away where if they say, you're fired tomorrow, Steve is cool.
Right.
Steve is like, he was like, let me stack because I'm going to say what I feel I need to say. Stephen hates the Dallas Cowboys. He's going to go against, he's the Cowboy hater, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But he needs to be that because he realizes everybody needs a nemesis. And, Mr. Jones had literally, if you go down to their practice facility, there's a whole thing of Stephen literally talking to the Cowboys fans. It's like running constantly. I stayed in the hotel. I watched it every 15 minutes just to make sure I filmed it and sent it to him. I was like, you doing it, huh? So I guess his relationship with Mr. Jones, Michael Irvin's relationship with Mr. Jones, all the players that played for Mr. Jones say something different. And maybe he was that person in the 50s and 60s. And then maybe he changed. Because everybody loves the University of Alabama. And they wouldn't let black players on the field at one time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that people don't think that he's changed in 50 years or however long it's been since that photo. But I think that him addressing it would not necessarily be a bad thing. Say, hey, listen, and I think he said that he was there, but just out of curiosity. But still, the optics of it are the optics of it. You're on the white side of a group of white young men blocking black teenagers from entering a school. You should at least say, you know something, I was wrong, and I don't support this, and I shouldn't have even been there, and I feel bad that I was even there, and what my schoolmates were standing for at that time, because I don't believe that these days. At least say that.
You mean less crazy?
Less crazy.
And I say that because, listen, if we were to pull up every picture, they got it now, and they're showing Karens now, and I'm going to use that word, older white women now. I just saw one telling a guy he had to move his car. He said, I live here. She goes, I don't care. I want to park here. This idea of you have to do what I say and get moving. We've been seeing it for the past 6 years. Literally people saying, I am an elite and I'm Caucasian and this is the way it's supposed to go. You're here for no reason. We've been seeing it. They're not making those up. That is the craziness that has been going on and we had to just shake our head to. The best thing about 2022, or since 2020, or since the big reset, and that's what the pandemic was, since the big reset, people conscious has changed. Their ideas have changed. My daughter's 26 years old, one of them, and we're starting not to get along because I'm a baby boomer. Like we're starting at this point, no matter what I said, is a rebuttal. And it's never been like that. And it's because they are seeing things the way they see it. They are seeing things like you were complicit in letting this happen. And they don't realize everything is a small chip at the mountain. They think we're supposed to fly to the top of the mountain. This is the way it was. And they don't realize it was chipping to get to the point that they can even have an opinion. They don't even understand that until they understand. Like I used to say to my moms, how she's born in 1923, God rest her soul. And I said to her, how was you like going there and people spitting on you and marching? She said, I didn't march. I was like, you didn't march? You wasn't out there? She was like, no, I was at work. And I'm thinking, Ma, you didn't get, she said, that I wouldn't have been good with somebody spitting on me, Johnny. It wouldn't have been good. If I would have been there, they would spit on me, you wouldn't have been born. Like, she goes, I know me. And so I took it that way. That was her way of getting out of it. But I had to realize not everybody was there. Not everybody believed and pushed with Martin Luther King. Not a lot of people. Not a lot was with Malcolm X. We see it and we see them and we see people in the audience, and only one or two of us can see a grandparent or somebody related in their family in that crowd. So it wasn't huge. It wasn't the gathering and putting it together. So I just realize that all the time, like, don't get on the mountaintop. If you really want to save people, you really want to save your culture, you'll do it like Harriet Tubman did it. Only speak to the ones who want to be saved. Stop talking to everybody.
Well, on the Kyrie topic, he got suspended for, it was supposed to be 5 games. I'm not sure if all 5 were actually enforced or not. He got dropped by Nike, or he got suspended by Nike. Phil Knight came forward and said he doesn't see Nike working with Kyrie again. But then again, Phil Knight is not the decision maker. He's no longer the CEO. I believe he's still on the board of directors. Mm-hmm. But clearly Phil Knight's words carry a lot of weight at Nike, being the founder of Nike. Before the game, when actually Kyrie played in Brooklyn, a number of Black Hebrew Israelites showed up in purple.
It was unbelievable. Purple and gold.
Yep. He apologized. Charles Barkley and Shaq called him an idiot. Shaq, I know somewhat. Charles Barkley, I do not. When you saw that statement of calling Kyrie an idiot, what'd you think?
When I saw that, one, I know that they took it as a flash in the pan and didn't pay attention to it. And I know that they were big, it wasn't just this thing about Israelites. I think they think Kyrie has started up a bunch of things. And so that was the title they wanted to put on to Kyrie.
Which Kyrie has done a lot of things.
Said
and done a lot of things, which to me, now people have disagreed with me. To me, it appears that Kyrie doesn't really want to play basketball and love the game as much as a Jordan or a Kobe and so forth. I can't imagine.
I got to stop you. He loves the game.
Okay. That's my opinion. That's my opinion.
He loves basketball. He hates the business of basketball.
Right. But you have to work within the business of basketball in order to play basketball.
To play at that level.
Right? You could go murder everyone in the Rutgers,
right.
and still play basketball. You might even be able to go overseas and not have to deal with whatever bullshit. But at the end of the day, the way I view it is he understands what the rules are. You have to take the vaccine if you want to play at a certain time. You have to, there's certain codes of conduct and so forth. He's done certain things. And then when he's gotten suspended or so forth, he'll say, oh, y'all suspended me. But it's like, well, you were suspended based on actions that you knew would have this type of reaction.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I see.
Yeah.
But first thing, Kyrie.
Do you know Kyrie, by the way? Okay. I've never met him.
And I'm a fan of Kyrie in everything. So I'm telling you, I like the way he speaks. I spoke when Kareem said something against him, I couldn't believe that, because in 1968, 67, Kareem or 70, whatever year it was. It probably was early 70s. Kareem was on this same path.
Very, very much outspoken.
But back when Kareem did it, it was a crew. There was Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Oscar Robinson, Muhammad Ali,
Jim
Brown.
Yeah.
Like, they had a coalition. They had an idea. That was the problem too, is that they did a press conference to let everybody know, when they should have kept it quiet and built up the army you need to build before you step forward. Like, don't say, I'm gonna get this army and then I'm coming back to get you. That's like somebody saying, I'm going to my car, and you stay on the court and wait for them to come back.
With a gun.
That's an idiot. Don't do that. Don't tell anybody that's your oppressor that you're going to stop their oppression. You build it before you can stop the oppression. Now, Kyrie loving basketball and having to understand the rules, that's a problem, because the rules that say you can't be human is a bad thing. I remember we sat here.
Hold on.
What I mean by can't be human. No. Let me say what I mean by.
Explain that.
As what I say by can't be human. Hey, these are the rules, and you have to not say what you feel. You have to only talk about this, that, no. That's not fair.
Okay.
That's dehumanizing.
Let's just talk about the link to the film, Hebrews to Negroes.
Right.
Now, when they asked about it, Kyrie said, I'm not going to apologize because I know who I am. Kyrie, when watching this film, I haven't watched the film myself, but I did talk to people who did watch it from beginning to end, and we had detailed discussions about it. And yes, the film pushes the narrative that Black people in America are the original Hebrews, the original Jews, and so forth. I have no problems with that. If that's the case and it can be proven, or if this is how people believe, I'm cool with that. If you feel that Black people in America are the real Jews and the Ashkenazi Jews like myself are not, fine. I have no issues with that whatsoever. None. If you want to embrace the Jewish faith based on whatever your perspective is, great.
Right.
You know, I'm all for it. And Kyrie, I believe, was focusing on those parts. But the problematic parts in that film was that they called Jews devil worshippers.
Imposters.
They also...
I watched it.
Okay. They worship the devil. There was also some Holocaust denial and so forth. I think if I had put up a link to a film that had a whole bunch of positive stuff, but somewhere in there I said that Black people were devil worshipers and slavery didn't really happen like that. I mean, a couple people died, but this whole millions of people dying, the transatlantic slave thing was all overblown and so forth. I think I would get the same level of outrage from the Black community for posting a film that included those parts, regardless of what other positive things are in that film. And I think that's what people are focusing on. And that's what they're asking him to address. And he was sort of dodging the issue and talking about the other parts of the film.
Right. But so he was staying on the positive part of the film.
Yes.
The reporter was staying on the
negative part of the film.
So
but it's all part of the same film.
It's all part of the film. So
right?
He made a choice not to pay attention to what he felt was nonsense. The reporter felt you should pay attention to what this nonsense is. And he said, no, I'm paying attention to this part because this may be true. So
right. But you still have to address the nonsense or at least denounce the nonsense to a certain degree, right? I mean, you can't just ignore that it's not there. Like I said,
I don't think he did that. I don't think he did where he was saying like it wasn't there. And I do understand that whole idea. And I'm not here to be a Kyrie apologist. I watched it and I said,
so you watched the whole film?
Yeah. And
let me ask you a question. The parts that I said about the devil worshiping and the Holocaust, were they in the film?
It was at the last part of the film when he was saying that the Jews from Europe had adopted the religion and they have kidnapped it. And those are the same people who decided in 1946, when Britain and America awarded this part of Palestine and had them cut out. This is a trip at Fat Stogies.
What about the devil worshiping part?
Talking about their star and how many. Let me put it this way. I believe everybody, when they talk about the God of this system, believes the God of this system is, when they were saying, is the devil. Even the Christians were talking about the devil rules this part right here. And then Jesus is going to come back with 144,000, and he's going to then cause Armageddon, and those who follow him are going to go forth, and those who don't are going to go to the burning abyss, and they're going to be with that's that part of Revelation, which was written by Christians. So which is not in the Torah or in, but anyway, that whole mentality and how they were saying it thing, that mentality constantly, when they use the word devil, when the Nation of Islam has said it, and when they said white devil, and everybody was like, oh, you're saying white people are devils. No, the decision and the making up of the devil is not a black thing. It's a white thing. And it is because black people have always understood the spirits of the world could be evil and can be good. And we needed the counteraction. It's just that when Christianity came and we were indoctrinated with that, we had to then take on that mentality that this is Jehovah, Yahweh, Jah, whatever you want to call him. And then there's a sub thing below or here that can make you move, that make evil. So those are dynamics put together in a Christian world. So that is constantly going to be beat up and revolved around. If you know anything about Hebrews, they don't even talk about hell or the devil.
No.
Satan. It's not even a part of it.
Yeah.
So explain that and understand when you mention that right there, you're talking to Christians. When you mention that, you may talking to a Jewish person or a Hebrew descent or somebody who decides to be Islamic or what would have it in Buddhism, right? So it's when you say those things, understand where they come from, why when you say them, you throw a blanket on all of it.
I think it's unfortunate. I mean, listen, as someone who's born Jewish but isn't religious at all, to me, a lot of this stuff is just all fairy tales and people arguing over things that can't be proven one way or another. And it's sad, and it's creating division, and people are having to choose sides. People are losing money. People are losing, families feud over this. They lose friends over this.
And
it's all to me, it's all fairy tales. It's like, there's no real devil. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
there's not. And I'm going to say it right there. There's no devil.
There's no real, Satan is not like an actual entity that anyone's ever proven.
Say it. Black man is God. Say it, Vlad.
Black man is God. White man is God. Asian man is God. If you feel the God within you, then more power to you. Some people like the concept of religion. Some people think religion just only brought problems. Like, I understand both sides of it. And to me, it's sad when you see this type of lines being set and people constantly fighting with each other when historically Black people and Jewish people were allies.
Yeah, didn't y'all watch Django?
What happened with Django and the Jews?
In Django,
this part?
In Django, Jamie Foxx's guy who taught him how to shoot, put the clothes on him, was German.
Okay.
Right? So most of the Jews that had escaped Germany, most of the people had escaped Germany, like America is mostly of German descent. They had to be of that faith. Like they had that faith. When we talk about the slums and all that, those are called the ghettos, right?
Yeah, that's a Jewish term.
Exactly. So, and that was
more Jewish people.
There was more Jewish people here than everything else.
Yeah, and when you look at, for example, like Black people and Jewish people working together successfully, Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine. Mm-hmm. You think the two of them are tripping off each other's race like that?
No.
You think they're arguing like Russell Simmons and Leor Cohen built an incredible empire together. I mean, the list goes on and on. Me and Boosie, look at what we've done together.
Russell and Rick Rubin.
Russell and Rick Rubin, who's also Jewish. There you go.
That's the original building. That's the original.
Yeah, Leor Cohen came later. Right. That's actually a better. Thank you for correcting me. That's actually a better example.
Those are people, though, and that's the deal. Those are people, and those people together, individuals, separate and meeting each other is better when they meet with a group, because the group is sometimes led by anger and passion and people just move along with it.
Yeah, I don't agree with a lot of stuff that the ADL says. Like, for example, when they denounced Dave Chappelle's stand-up on Saturday Night Live, I was like, y'all are tripping.
You're tripping because
y'all tripping. He brought up some valid points. He brought up both sides. He didn't even though he's friends with Kanye, he didn't put Kanye on a pedestal or anything of that. He even said that he avoided Kanye after those comments. I think that a lot of times Jewish people, and I've said that, Jewish people are part of the problem as well when it comes to these kinds of situations. And I can say that as a Jewish person, is that like the whole thing that whenever you say Jew anything, it's suddenly anti-Semitic. No, it's not. You're allowed to talk about Jews. You're allowed to say that you don't like Israel's treatment of Palestine without being anti-Semitic. I don't agree with the way Israel treats Palestine. I've been saying for years that there should be a better solution than this constant fighting that's been happening over, 6 decades at this point that hasn't really gotten anywhere. The whole chosen people, I've never liked that term. I've always thought that was a divisive term that creates bad feelings on both sides.
I never understood why.
I don't feel chosen. I don't think anyone else is chosen. And to create, and then what happens? A certain group feels they're chosen, and the other group says, no, we're chosen and you lied about being chosen. So you see what I'm saying? Right. We're the real Jews, you're the fake Jews. And it creates a level of just nonsense on both sides. And I understand that every religious group feels like they have a special relationship with God. I get it. The Mormons feel like they're chosen as well, right? They feel like they have a special relationship with God that other Christians do not have. I'm sure the Muslims feel that their relationship with Allah is different than everyone else's relationship. I get it. But to start creating these tags and say that we're the only ones and everyone else is just outsiders, you're not going to get a good outcome from this.
Did you watch the Game of Thrones?
I did, religiously, and House of Dragon.
Let me tell you. So finally, I got sick. Okay? Finally, I got the flu. I've been flying everywhere. I came back, and I think it was the 6th of November. And I started watching Game of Thrones. I wouldn't watch it because I don't like when everybody's hyping it, and I don't like waiting, and I don't, and I love great acting, and it was great acting.
Yeah, 100%.
And I realized why this was so good and why people were so attached to it, because everybody feels that they should sit on the Iron Throne.
Yeah.
Everyone feels that they have a right to be on this Iron Throne, and that they're going to make everybody happy and everything is going to be right. And it just hit me in that point. That's exactly what the problem is. Everybody wants to sit on the top of the hill and say, look how great I'm doing for all of you while you guys bend the knee to me. Mm. And it's just such a bad thought process. But they get run into it. I think Jerry Jones, I think they were saying, hey, there's a big thing at the front, at the what you call it. And I think Jerry Jones, being a young teenager, not ever thinking what's it going to be like when you're 65 or 72, I think running to get there to look to see what is happening may have gotten him in a situation. He also didn't get on the other side and deny it. He was in his teens. He wanted to have a good, you know what I'm saying? This is the way it goes. And these guys are the rebels. He didn't know pretty soon it was going to be flipped, reversed. Yeah. Or that, because this was the way it was.
Yeah.
So I'm not giving anybody passes because it's not up to me, but I understand the situation. I understand the way it was. I just thought I wanted to get back to that. The other thing is, when they called Kyrie an idiot, they didn't look at everything. They just looked at it, had a quick response, and said it and got out of a word. I think they were wrong for that. I do. I don't think they should have said that. You see, Kenny Smith didn't say it because Kenny thinks before he speaks. And I think sometimes you should think before you speak. And you don't have to give an answer. This is another. They could have said, you know what? We don't know the whole story. Let me get into it, and then I'll give you your story. Well, this is the whole story. He said, it can't be the whole story right there if you're just going to read me a couple of pieces. Yeah. Plus, why are we talking about that? That's how you get out of that and on to what you're getting paid to do. And then he said, right after that, the couple of weeks, like last week, he was talking and Charles said, Rick Mahorn or John Salley can't fight. Right? And I laughed.
Really? He said that about you?
Yeah, he said that. And I laughed. And they was like, man, you heard that? I go, I love Charles for keeping my name relevant. Right? Him mentioning that. And they go, well, you can't fight. And I sit there and I go, you don't want me to fight because I don't believe in fighting. I believe in if I'm threatened, I have to end you from ever threatening me again. So you don't want me to fight because I don't see it the way you do. I'm a karate man. See, I bruise on the inside. You wouldn't know that, big Kentucky Fried Chicken eating motherfucker.
Well, Kanye.
Yes. Kanye
West,
Yay.
a.k.a. Ye. Right? Now, this was happening right before we started this interview. I showed you an interview clip where Kanye goes on Alex Jones. And when they brought up Hitler, he actually said he likes Hitler and started bringing up all the positive things that Hitler has done, like make microphones and roads and everything else like that. And he said he doesn't disagree with everything that Nazis do and so forth. So by the time this comes out, this is going to be all the way out there and so forth. When I showed you that video, what did you think?
I think he shouldn't have had the line down the middle of his stocking cap.
Right. He had a black stocking cap.
Right. I think it shouldn't have a line down the middle. I also feel that he is going on and talking to people who may not have his best interest.
Nick Fuentes and Milo Yiannopoulos.
He hasn't, and I want to interview him. So I'm going to say this now. I want to interview Kanye. As a black man, which one is my camera? Kanye, as a black man that knows how to interview, I want to interview you, right? And I want to hit you with a whole bunch of questions, and I want to find out exactly what you want the public to know. That's the first thing. Second thing, saying you like Hitler is not smart. This was not a man who was into the betterment of anybody but himself. This was...
Especially black people.
Like
black people were being thrown in the gas chambers along with the Jews and the gypsies and the homosexuals.
1.2 million black people died during the Holocaust.
Yes.
Million. Yeah. Germany had gone, just like Belgium, into Africa. Now, it's funny, you watch the Raiders of the Lost Ark and you realize when they're showing that, well, you can always do something showing that we're bettering or beating up on a Nazi. But the story is true. He literally was trying to find ancient artifacts and things to enhance his army to make him the ruler of the world, just like the pharaohs were. So he was seriously, constantly trying to find that. So to say that, I think Kanye said it to get a reaction, to get us to talk. I get he's doubling down on the DEFCON 3.
Yeah.
I'm not understanding this chess move.
Right. And to be fair, and to be fair, because when we put this out there, and I talked about this in one of my interviews, I spoke to Charlemagne and Van Lathan.
Right.
They both told me, and this is something they've said publicly as well. Like Charlemagne told me that, well, first of all, it kind of centered around the TMZ interview, right? When he did the whole slavery was a choice thing, there was a whole thing where he was praising Hitler and so forth. Van Lathan said, who was right there, that he was doing all this stuff. And that part of the interview was cut out.
Because Harvey's smart.
Well, in exchange for an interview with Harvey. So shortly after.
Yeah, I knew it.
Shortly after that TMZ interview, when they cut that out, suddenly there's a sit-down interview with Harvey and Kanye. But also, Charlemagne said that in a phone call, Kanye was telling me how much he loved Hitler and loved the Nazis and everything else like that. And everyone, this kind of goes with a lawsuit that happened where he was saying, someone that worked for Yeezy or Adidas said that Kanye would constantly be bringing up Hitler and his love for Hitler and so forth. And social media said, oh, this is all bullshit. They're just trying to tear a black man down. He never said any of those things. Well, now he's on tape saying those things. So it just is what it is at this point.
Yeah, there's this trip. I got this huge book on Hitler. And I had this guy, I learned on this show too, not to give so much detail on people, but I met this guy who wrote a paper about Hitler's leadership. And the teacher was upset with him, but all his points were at that point. I go, you can pick other leaders who are better than Hitler. Like you don't have to delve into what he did. He was able to convince a majority of people that they were the chosen race and they were the Aryan and they were the strongest. What I'm just telling you with the Game of Thrones, we should be on the throne. Look what we've done. Look all over the world where we are. Like, it just, people who decide to choose that want to also, you can't get away from the part where he's a killer and he, what are the great things you're gonna say? Oh, he made Volkswagen, right? And he decided everybody should have a car.
Yeah.
And like, enough.
Yeah, the same reason why you were tearing down the statues of Robert E. Lee and so forth.
Should be.
Yes, I'm sure he had good leadership ability, but the leadership was poised to was tainted in order to try to keep slavery going.
Exactly.
So the direction of his leadership is putrid. So therefore, there should not be statues praising him. And no one should really praise someone like this.
No. And this is why I say, I sat there and I would wonder, man, and I know I'm going to get a response from this show. I want to interview Kanye. Okay. And I want Kanye.
Go for it.
I want Kanye to interview me. And now,
and
the reason I do is everybody I see him interviewing doesn't look like him. And I think...
Hold on, let me think.
No, you can
he did Drink Champs.
Huh?
He did Drink Champs.
And when he did Drink Champs, that was his best interview, getting to a point, and then like he had to apologize for Nori. He had to get to... But since then, he was like, I'm not getting any more black folks in trouble.
I actually would disagree with you. I actually think that was his worst interview simply because that was when he went in on the whole George Floyd thing and said how he actually died from fentanyl and how the cop's knee wasn't really on his neck and so forth. To me, I find that, and I've said this before, I find that more egregious than the Jewish comments. Because at the end of the day, you could talk shit about a group of Jewish people that you feel are holding you back or running the world or so forth, but you're talking about a specific person who the world got to see die in front of cameras.
Right.
And this man has children and this man has family, and this created the biggest social uprising on earth. It went to trial. Derek Chauvin had the best lawyers that the police fund. He did not have a public defendant. He had a full-blown legal team that actually tried to defend him and say that it wasn't his fault, and a jury of his peers voted him guilty.
Right. So,
as well as the other cops that stood there complicit in this whole situation. So to say that this guy died of a drug overdose because you're hanging out with Candace Owens and she just put out a documentary that says that because she's pandering to racist white people was putrid to me. So I cannot say that was his best interview because
I think it was
that's
his
where
best
he pulled
interview.
that whole narrative.
I think it was his best interview. And I think when he came back and apologized for literally not thinking about saying, because he came back and said, I hurt people, I was wrong. I think it being his best interview because it was the first time I saw him literally comfortable in conversation. And I think now with people around him, he has moved so far away from the talent we're used to seeing in Kanye to being something different. And I think he feels, just like in his song, that this is back to the point where his grandfather was doing the sit-ins, and this is his chance to push forth the black movement. I'm telling you, with all of that strength and all of that, all of those accolades and him being able to be on platforms, and when he says something, people listen, I think it's not thought all the way through. And I don't feel advisors or people around him is helping him say it. When you just say it, and wherever it may land, it lands. That's not how it works.
I mean, even Pusha T denounced what he was saying.
Yeah,
Pusha T is someone that
Pusha T used to get people high.
He revived Pusha's whole career. Like, to be dead honest, and this is not a knock at Pusha T, but the clips were over. And, the clips were done. They'd broken up. Malice changed his name to No Malice, and he was doing Christian music, and really Pusha was out there by himself. Kanye took him under his wing and gave him that energy and gave him that production, and suddenly put Pusha T back in the conversation of one of the great lyricists of this era. So the fact that Pusha T even said, I'm not feeling this.
Exactly.
Says a lot.
And see, that's why I said he's not, whoever was in his camp or wherever he's learning it from, even to the point now, I think now Kanye is smart enough to have somebody to bounce things off and fact check.
Man, his camp is lame as fuck. You got Nick Fuentes in your camp who you are doing, like, Nick Fuentes is right there next to him with Alex Jones. Nick Fuentes was in that, like, Tim podcasting that he walked out of, you know, along with Milo. Nick Fuentes, and I've said this, like, to all the women out there who are supporting Kanye right now, know that his best friend, Nick Fuentes, believes that women should not have the right to vote. He has said this publicly. He's called the black vote the N-word vote. He's compared, the gas chambers and Jews getting killed to cookies in the oven. Like this is not somebody who you really just want to. I mean, look what happened to Trump just having this dude at his dinner. Like, he's having to backtrack and say he didn't know who he was, even though you got a Secret Service that vets every single human being that comes near you.
But they only vet him not to have a gun or a knife or not trying to kill him.
I think there's a little more vetting than that.
This is another thing.
I think the Secret Service will do a background check on someone before. Yeah,
before
but
I don't think he knew. I really did. Now, I'm not here to defend Trump. The way Trump is, Kanye's coming. You know, you got to realize when you're dealing with him, you're not going to be able to tell him what to do. He can't say, "Hey, this guy with Kanye did it." He's not going to listen.
Okay, maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong. I don't know.
Trump's not going to listen to that.
Trump, you can't base what Trump is saying on what the actual truth is, but who knows? Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. And listen, I am close to people that have known Kanye for like 20-something years, and Kanye switches up his crew like every few months. Yeah. You got all these, you got the Jason Lees around him, you got the John Monopolies around him. Yeah, you got, this guy, is part of his team, Sci-Hi the Prince, and then 6 months later, none of them, suddenly he's hanging out with Antonio Brown. That's his new best friend. Hey. And he's going to games with him. Who actually has an arrest warrant issued right now for allegedly beating up his baby mother. But I digress. Kanye constantly brings a whole new group of people around him constantly every few months, and those people seem to affect him. Suddenly he adopts the thought patterns of the people around him. Candace Owens, once again, a brand new person that suddenly pops up around him, and suddenly you hear Candace Owens through his speech, right? Which, I don't know, man. Like, at the end of the day, I don't think I would interview Kanye, not because of the statements, but because I feel like this is a mentally disabled person at this point. I feel this is someone who's bipolar, who's not on medication. And just like I don't interview like an Orlando Brown, who also is off the rocker, or how I turned down an interview with Aaron Carter, before he passed away, because I felt like these people are not in their right mind, and me sitting down with a person trying to have a conversation, an intelligent conversation, to someone who's just going off into weird directions is somewhat taking advantage of the person, and also not really allowing me to have what I feel is a valid, intelligent back and forth.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. But if you want to interview him, cool.
I can't wait to interview him. And so, Cersei?
Cersei? From Game of Thrones?
Yeah, the
mom?
queen. The queen?
Yeah.
You see how she kept changing the small group of people. She would change to this person, they brought this guy from this, and when you don't agree with them, they're gonna set up a crew around them that agrees with what they say and is complicit. That's what's
happening right now.
Who are blinded by fame and drunk in its liquor is a bad situation when you sit around not to sit and think. one of the coolest things Kanye did is when I saw Dave Chappelle and all, and went to Wyoming. He was with his dad, and he was going, and you get there to step outside of the Matrix, and at that time. But then every day you feel you have to do something in order to stay relevant, and that's
dangerous.
Pain is a terrible, terrible drug.
Right, and recently the divorce with Kim Kardashian has been finalized, and it's been announced that she's getting $200,000 a month in child support. It's funny because D.L. Hughley, who's gone back and forth with Kanye, has put up the gold digger, clip and so forth. But honestly, to me, this is a little bit silly because the whole "we want prenup." Number one, it doesn't seem like Kim Kardashian is actually getting anything in terms of spousal support from Kanye. When it comes to divorces, child support can never be part of a prenup. It's a totally separate situation, right?
Right.
So the fact that someone is worth hundreds of millions of dollars is having to pay $200,000 for 4 children per month, which is only $50,000 per kid.
Only?
Yeah, only. I don't think that's a lot. To someone who has primary custody, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Honestly, I don't think
this is the deal. For him to give up $2.4 million a year for his kids. $1.2
million.
2.4.
Wait, yeah, you're right. 2.4. Yeah, you're right.
2.4 over the year. For now 15 years. That's a good deal
for him.
That's a good deal for him and for the kids, right?
Yeah.
So
I think he got off easy.
I think he got for anybody. I raise kids, right? We have my nieces in our house right now. Well, my sister-in-law is off doing some work for the next month, and so we have my nieces with us, and my wife is like, I did this already. Like, yeah, I can't believe I gotta feed and, feeding them and bathing them and doing the smell check, you know what I'm saying? And making sure the hair is right, making them feel good about themselves. I watched this TED Talk one time that said that the biggest, the most important thing is the trauma that happened when you was a child. How you would handle when you was a child is why I hope that they keep the bullshit away from them. The more that they're in the paper about their children, or in what's called about their children, will affect them in the future. It will affect them if somebody goes to read it. It's going to affect them. So at this point, they should be so far removed from it that when they can get to the point to realize, hey, we were around watching our parents grow up. Because that's literally what they were doing.
Yeah.
Right? I tell my daughter when she was mad at me, I was like, hey, I was 23, yo. How silly are you at 23?
Nah,
right? So I said, you can't blame me for being 23.
Yeah.
Right? You can't blame me for being 30 and not knowing. I said, you're almost 30. How much do you not know? And I had to raise you. So it's a hard thing.
Look, I mean, 200,000 for Kanye is like 2,000 for an average person. So if someone said, hey, this father of 4 has to pay $2,000 child support every month for his 4 kids that his ex-wife has primary custody of, I don't think anyone would be up in arms.
No. And it's, 13% of your net worth or something like that? But listen, the $200,000 goes into their life insurance policy. They each get $50,000 a month into their life insurance because Kim's not going to use that money to buy groceries.
No. Kim is worth $1.8 billion at this point. So at this point, it's not like she's siphoning off the money on bags or anything ridiculous like that.
No.
She's
a good chick too. I'm gonna tell you, I know Kim Kardashian. I'm telling you. And if anybody sits around and starts talking negative, I'm telling you, I know her. She's a good chick. Everybody is just trying to get through life. She's a good chick though.
Yeah.
And
she got 4 kids that she has to raise.
Yeah.
Essentially on her own to a certain degree.
With no male in the house, which is detrimental.
Yes. Absolutely. Because I doubt the whole family was together on Thanksgiving. She had to hire extra security after the whole anti-Semitic comments at the kids' school. There's signs on the 405 freeway, which is right over here, You know, Kanye was right about the Jews.
Do you think somebody would hurt his children? And if they did, they would use it they would use the Jewish thing to mask it.
I think in this day and age, anything is possible. I would hope that would never, ever, ever, ever happen. But, listen, I have a rapper friend of mine, and I'm not going to say his name. He's from Long Beach. See, y'all can connect the dots. But, he said that he's found notes on his car dropping his kids off from school saying, we know where your kids go to school. Like they're dead and so forth. Like I've heard stories like this. Yeah. Nothing happened to the kids ultimately. But yeah, shit like this could happen. And, at the end of the day, it's fucked up. You would think that nothing's going to happen. But then again, it's like,
yeah, if somebody goes after your kids, it's really not for what you said. If they just want to get your kids.
On the flip side, how many Jewish friends do these kids have at their school? How many Jewish teachers,
and how
Jewish
does it
parents,
all the way
and
down
how does it all interact? Oh, your dad hates me. Like, no, he doesn't. Well, he just said this. And look, he's on Alex Jones saying it again. Your dad hates the person who killed my family. I've had family members killed by Hitler. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's one of those things. But, at the end of the day, Kanye's doing Kanye. People are still covering it.
Why does Alex Jones still have?
Well, he has his own platform. He's not on social media. See, his whole little crew of people that he's really cocooned himself in have all been kicked off of all the social media platforms. Nick Fuentes has been kicked off of YouTube and Twitter and everything else like that. Milo as well. Like, Alex Jones, definitely. They have their own little platforms. And, I think.
Don't you think that anything that comes from them should be silenced? At this point,
silence is one of those things where you technically can't silence anyone unless you kill them or you put them in prison and take away, their ability to get to a cell phone. Ultimately, you could have your own website and your own following. This is how Alex Jones built an empire.
Right. But what I'm saying is, when they put out this when you see the Kanye thing and what you call it, we should not see it. So we shouldn't. Yeah. If you want to stop the way something is happening, all you have to do is build a new one and make the old one obsolete.
I mean, I think Academics, when I interviewed him last, I think he had a really good insight on this. He basically said that Kanye right now is a man with no country, meaning that he's ostracized the Black community with the George Floyd and the slavery comments. He's ostracized corporations with all the anti-Semitic stuff. So where is he at now? The conspiracy theory community. This is why he says things like, my mom was sacrificed. Community, conspiracy, that's like a trigger word. They love that. Oh, sacrifice. Oh, yeah, we always knew this.
But what if that's true?
Okay, I actually addressed this publicly. I interviewed one of the guys, because he, along with his mom getting sacrificed, he also said that Jordan's father was sacrificed. I interviewed the guy, one of the two men who are in prison right now for the murder of Jordan's father. They were not Hollywood or the mafia or the media or Jewish people or whoever. The Illuminati had nothing to do with the murder of Jordan's dad. That story is very well documented. Not only did I interview him, but it was backed up by actual news footage and everything else like that. A teenage kid who lived in a trailer home did a robbery because Jordan's dad pulled over on the side of the road to take a nap down the street from a motel where all the drug dealing and prostitution was happening. So these guys saw a brand new Lexus. Remember, during the time, a Lexus was a big deal.
Yep.
Right? It's not like today where everyone's got a Bentley. Back then, a brand new Lexus, a red Lexus, was like, wow, you got one of those. So you got a brand new Lexus on the side of the road with a bunch of broke-ass kids. They go to try to steal the car and rob him. He resists, ends up getting killed. They drive around in the car for a week making phone calls on the car phone, because back then the car phones were built into the car.
Yep.
They were calling all their friends on the car phone. The guy I interviewed took Jordan's dad's championship ring that Michael gave him and the chain and made a rap video in his trailer home and recorded it. It's part of we have the video.
Right.
Does this sound like a sacrifice to you? Does this sound like the Illuminati? Does this sound like a mafia hit over Jordan's gambling debts? Does it?
I don't know. Would you cut somebody's hand off and then wear it? Do they cut ears off and then have them as pieces? Do they take fingers and let you know? Do they take somebody's cloak and put it on and or coat and wear their cloak? Those are ignorance. It's true. But what if they didn't do it to Jordan's father, but what if they did do it to Kanye's mom? Like
okay.
This is a deal.
Okay.
What if
All right.
that happened?
I actually researched the whole story behind Kanye's mom as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is actually out there. People are saying, oh, how did Vlad get around the HEPA, medical laws and everything else like that? There's actual articles out there. Please Google it. Please Google it yourself.
Yes.
Now, Kanye's mother, who was in her 50s, who was overweight and had other medical problems, went to go get a full mommy makeover with a notable plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills. The doctor who actually did an interview about this after the fact said that she came to him, and although she was a candidate for this operation, he sent her to another doctor to get medical clearance first because of her inherent health issues and weight and so forth. Go to this other doctor, have him do a full exam of you, potentially get on some medication and so forth, and then come back and I'll do the operation. She never went to that other doctor. She instead found a second doctor that didn't make her go through all those steps.
There's a guy who says, he does lipo. He says, this is dangerous. Let me start you talking there. This is dangerous.
Yes.
And you're right. This is going to take a lot from your body.
Yes.
And
So go
right.
through the proper steps of someone of your age and medical condition. And then once you've been fully cleared, I will come back and do the surgery. She did not go to that other doctor to get cleared. She instead found a doctor who I guess was in a strip mall.
Who sacrificed her. Go ahead.
Who did not make her go through the proper medical steps. And ultimately she died of a stroke during recovery.
Yeah.
Even though she had, I believe, one of her relatives there who was a nurse that was watching her, but ultimately you go into cardiac arrest.
It's throughout your body.
Yes.
So when you have a stroke or a heart attack,
yes.
It's blockages throughout your body.
This is what happened to his mother. Rest in peace to Donda
But doesn't
West.
it look crazy to you? Takeoff, Extensio, who else? My man, Bootsy's boy. Like all of these guys.
B&B Rock. Like, I mean,
right.
doesn't
it seem
trouble? Like lots of people die very violently, especially in hip hop.
Why?
Why?
Yeah, that's what I'm just like. I used to dismiss it like you too. And then I started thinking, Dolores Tucker wasn't wrong.
See Dolores Tucker, who bashed rap music.
Well, she bashed gangster rap music.
Okay.
There's a difference. And she said, if we let this music get out and we let them keep doing this kind of music, they're going to be killing each other and they're going to be dying by the hundreds. That's what she said. She was right.
I mean, look, I've interviewed a lot of these guys who have died violently. I interviewed FBG Duck.
Mm-hmm.
The men that are responsible for FBG Duck have been arrested, allegedly. They haven't been convicted, so maybe they had nothing to do with it, but you can kind of connect the dots. I mean, here was a guy that was beefing with a group of young men who were known to be extremely violent. He still is living in an area where they could get to him with a short drive. In both of our interviews, I was telling him he should move out of Chicago. And in both interviews, he kept arguing with me and saying that he knows how to move and he's not going to get shot again because he had already been shot.
Mm-hmm.
And his brother had just been killed violently over the same shit. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you could say it's a sacrifice or it's Illuminati, but you're in the vicinity of people who you're actively in a war with, in a war of words and a war of guns, and you're making songs dissing all of their dead friends on top of it. So you could say it's Illuminati and you could say it's a sacrifice, but you could also say, hey, listen, connecting the dots is not that hard, that you put yourself in a dangerous situation. PNB Rock was eating at a Roscoe's that I would not step foot in. I would not go to that
You ain't
South
going
Central.
to Manchester.
No.
Manchester 405 for what?
No, it's surrounded by gangs. And if I walk in there, listen, man, there's been lots of times in LA where I hang out in Inglewood sometimes. I jump out to go get some food at a Jamaican restaurant. I see who's hanging out in the front and I'm like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. These guys here are probably familiar with Vlad TV. Someone recognizes me, takes a photo, posts it, or they call their friends. Suddenly I have a situation where
You get sacrificed.
you don't know. You don't know. You don't know what's going to happen.
So I don't believe in Illuminati.
Okay.
So let me just get to that.
Kyrie Irving does. He has an Illuminati tattoo on his hand.
Yeah. It's a trip because I'm a Mason. I'm a 33-degree Mason.
I'm actually, well, I was sworn in as a Freemason, but I never actually did anything after.
Right. So I did it.
People go run with this. And
I was Omega Psi Phi, and then the old head said, you got to move into this area. My brother, my uncles, my father, I moved in and learned what I needed to do. Me and Shaq had conversations about it. And
Shaq's a Freemason too?
Yeah. I see the fellowship. I understood what it was. My best friend who got murdered in 1984 was a Mason. And then when I saw how he was treated at his funeral and how they handled everything, I was like, this is a group of men I wanted to be a part of. So I looked at it one way. And then as you get older, you start seeing and hearing all these different things. Man, I'm telling you, there's so much going at you 24 hours a day that you can't keep up. But I did pledge, and my brother went Prince Hall, and I went Scottish Rites here in Los Angeles. And I learned a lot. I learned about a lot of the building. I paid attention to it. When I went to Egypt, I was totally into the Egyptology, which is a French pronunciation of what Egypt is. So anybody out there that wants to get at me, I understand that too. But it's easier to say Egyptology. And I just got to see the building blocks. I got to literally lean against the pyramid, put my face against the pyramid. I got to, touch the Sphinx, walk under it. So I got to see all of these things that we see this is built upon. And they were gonna say, no, you're wrong. That was built upon what the whites had in England as far as they get. I get it. But man, it's so much bullshit to join a group. It's so much, it's always, and I'm going to keep saying the House of Thrones, and I'm happy that I've watched it now. My daughter said I should do a TikTok of my reaction to it, because it's always what house you're part of, yep. What street you from. It goes all the way back to the gang. What set you claiming, right? You Grape Street. My man Dro, who has been my protector for a long time in these streets, in so many ways. My boy Nate and Shadow with the Crips. I just have been around them, realizing people are just trying to fit in a group, and that's what it looks like to me. I think they're just trying to fit into a group.
Your friend Larsa Pippen is dating Marcus Jordan. Larsa is 48. Marcus is 31.
I understand.
They were actually heckled recently. They were on a date at a Chargers game. Someone made a video. Did you see this video? Mm-hmm. Kind of mean, if you ask me. But that's what happens when you go out in public and so forth. Sometimes when you're a celebrity, and especially on this kind of caliber. There's been various comments about it. Jalen Rose said that she should see Marcus more of a nephew than a mate. Shaq said, I like to mind my own business, but this looks really bad. And this, from the outside looking in, it seems like there's already kind of a strained relationship between Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan based on what came out in The Last Dance. Scottie has been kind of vocal about that. This does not help Now, Larsa has actually addressed this. She said, I just met him 3 years ago. I never knew him or his family. I was 21 years old and in college when Scottie played that 1 year with MJ, and we weren't friends with them like everyone thinks.
Okay, so let me just say this.
Yeah.
I thought I was friends with Scottie Pippen. And then I saw him on ESPN like diss me. And then he was doing...
I think we were sharing this clip with each other. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he was doing a cookies, I guess, with his weed. And my boy was there and goes to put him on the camera, and I'm talking to him. He don't want to talk to me. I'm like, I've never done anything to this guy except been his friend.
And mention him on Vlad TV.
And mention him. I'm a friend of him. I thought.
Yeah, you even consistently said that you thought he was a better player than Michael
I said
Jordan.
he's the most talented
player, yeah.
right? So then I think about it. Larsa Pippen literally doesn't have to tell or have a conversation with anybody she has a connection to. She shouldn't have to. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to be around greatness' son, and greatness' son, I'm sure, is doing unbelievable things to keep her afloat physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, then go ahead. Because if he wasn't famous and was 31 years old, no one would say anything.
Well, yeah, it's just
all in the same. That was the one thing I'm gonna tell you.
Same thing, right?
It's all in the fishbowl. Remember, I told you before. It's you eat what they put in the fishbowl. Once you in this bowl,
you don't have to be in that fishbowl.
I
have in my 49
how's she going to get out of it?
In my 49 years on this planet, I have always been very careful about who I date. I don't mess around with employees. I don't mess around with friends, ex-girlfriends of friends or anything else like that. There's billions of people on this planet, especially when you're a man or woman of certain degree of success, fame, notoriety. You really have your pick of who it is that you want. You are not forced.
And she picks him.
She picks him.
I guess,
this
girl said to me one time, you can have any girl in the world. Why me? I said, because I get to pick any girl in the world.
Right.
Stop talking.
Right. And they did have a long and ugly divorce. What's been put out there recently is that she actually got a piece of Scottie Pippen's pension, as well as spousal support and child support. The pension thing kind of surprised me a little bit.
Well, yeah, she was there. That you got to understand what happens when you get married. When you go into this contract of marriage, because you have to go down and get a contract to get married. You have to get a license. When you go down and get your license, you have to pay attention to all the rules of the road. Mm-hmm. Pay attention. You can't cross the double line. You can only cross a single line. If you turn it left into the project, there's so many rules that you got to go back and pay attention to when you get this license of marriage.
Yeah,
and that's the way it is. It's the license of marriage. But my hat off to her. I always liked her. From when he first introduced me to her, I always liked her. And I love MJ's son. So, I'm happy for them that out of this whole fishbowl, they found themselves.
Well, Charles Barkley spoke recently about how he hasn't talked to Jordan in 10 years.
And he feels bad about that because it's his fault.
Well, what he said was this. During one of his shows, he was critical of Jordan's abilities as a team owner and executive of the Charlotte Hornets. And he said Michael's got to surround himself with better people, and I worry about him being successful. After he made those comments, Jordan called him, and he described it as a not pleasant conversation. And since then, they haven't spoken in 10 years. Barkley said, I thought it would blow over, to be honest with you. And he's stubborn, and I'm stubborn, and that's it.
Yeah, I interviewed Charles last year at Leaders and Legends, Tony La Russa's event, and we spoke on that last October, and he said, I made a mistake. I should not have said that about my friend. And Charles said, right there on stage, he was wrong for doing that and going at Michael. And this is the deal. He understands Michael. He understands that when somebody, and everybody maybe should do it this way, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And Charles, to him, showed, once again, on television saying that he wasn't he wasn't being a friend right there.
It's tough, man. It's like, me and academics talk about this a lot, is that you have these relationships with people and sometimes you have to talk about them on camera, right? And
Larry King didn't. Larry King was very particular if he was a friend of his.
Yeah.
He, like Oprah. Oprah's the same way. She didn't talk about Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, no, listen, I feel
you know what I'm saying? She's like, this is my friend. So they was like, she knew. He knew he was powerful. And I'm sure he didn't say, look what I'm doing to these women, Oprah. I know he kept that part to the side,
It's a line. And a lot of times, you have relationships go all over the place. You meet someone one time and they feel they have a relationship with you, and they do to a certain degree. There's other people that you have long-term relationships where they go to your house and they meet your family and so forth. Charles Barkley's point was that, listen, like, I can't really, if I'm criticizing, coaches and owners and something like that, I can't just, just because this guy's my friend, I can't just give him a pass when he's doing the same thing that I'm criticizing other people for. Ultimately, people have to respect your job and what it is that you do, and it's not personal, but it is a line, and I get it. There's certain people that I will not talk about negatively, even if they're doing something negative, but at some point, like a Pusha T situation, when, he just couldn't keep defending Kanye over and over again, and you have to say, hey, I'm not feeling it. And sometimes those conversations happen online and offline.
Yeah, Talib didn't feel it either, and he was cool with very cool with Kanye. He didn't feel the hat. He didn't like.
Oh no, yeah, he spoke negatively about Kanye, the whole Trump thing, and everything else like that. I mean, he did it on Vlad TV. I'm sure he's not feeling the direction he's going into now. And
people change.
People change. People,
but he should have had a conversation with Michael. Charles maybe should have had a conversation with Michael about what's going on, and then said, money, I'm going off about this, and this. Like those conversations happen, then you can have. But just to once again, not thinking.
Yeah.
Or not getting information first.
Yeah. And
feeling that you have to give an answer right there. That's not the way it has to be.
Look, Michael was a special figure in everyone's lives. Allen Iverson did an interview recently where he said that his friends, he had his little crew of day one guys. They would make fun of him because they felt that he was a groupie around Michael Jordan. And he was like, yo, Jordan was my hero. Like, this is who I looked up to when I was in high school with NBA dreams. He said he hated the Detroit Pistons because of Jordan.
I know.
Not because he actually hated the Detroit Pistons, but he hated the Detroit Pistons.
I know it. I know it.
Have you guys ever had this conversation?
No.
Iverson?
No, but I would always see like give you an example. I'm a huge LeBron fan, right? And every time I see LeBron, he's like this. He's looking at me like what's up? Not that I'm going to do anything. And I know it's nothing against anything I've ever done to LeBron. It's LeBron growing up, picking what side he wanted to be on. I think that's where, but it doesn't make me a difference because once guys get to know me, I realize this was just my job. And everybody else takes it as if they're part of that clan. You're not. When they get older and they get wiser, hopefully, and they'll realize that is just your job. It is not your life to wear those colors. You don't have to do that. And I love the Detroit Pistons. I love being a bad boy. I have a group chat to this day with the bad boys, certain number of us. That we make sure we check on each other and we're alive and we give each other the salute. You know what I'm saying? That I get it. But I haven't talked to, I reached out to some guys from the Miami Heat. I think it was Keith Askins was the last one I talked to, but they don't reach out to one if I'm doing. Ronnie Cycli, I checked with him. I checked with Brian Shaw, Willie Burton, but the rest of them, they're not friends of mine. The Miami Heat is not one of my favorite place to play, but not my favorite organization at that time.
Well, one of my Vlad TV YouTube members, Alani Yop, he actually brought up an interesting point. He wanted to ask you, why were you the only player from the bad boy Pistons that actually shook hands with the Bulls when the Bulls finally beat you guys?
Well, the reason I was one of
everyone else walked off except for you.
Except for me, Scott Hastings, and Joe Dumas. The reason I did is, one, because MJ's my frat brother and my friend. And Scottie and Horace. I talked to Horace Grant, text him not too long ago. I still was cool with Horace. I recruited him in college, so I stayed cool with him and Scottie at that time. And I just didn't think it was a smart move. I literally said that not too long ago, but a lot of guys have to live with it. And I knew I would have to live with it. And that's not, reputation is what you fall for, character, what you stand for. And my character, they beat us. They beat us. They finally beat us.
Yeah.
They need it. I tell you this, I love the Celtics, huge Celtic fan. And that's how the Celtics handled us. They walked off between, didn't shake a hand, except for Kevin McHale, gave Isaiah 5 and said, bring the trophy here. That was the only person that said anything, but they were the great Celtics, and everybody didn't say anything because you don't say anything about greatness. And Larry was pissed and he was walking off, and Danny Ainge, he's lucky he had to walk off. And it was smart because we in Detroit. Not only we gonna beat you, we gonna beat you. So I got it. So when we were handing it off to the Bulls the same way, it would have been different if we were in their gym. But we're in our gym, we took the beating, we should have manned up and said, that was my opinion. Mm-hmm. And so since it wasn't the consensus of the whole squad, that's when I realized, hey, this time I'm gonna have to break out of this. And I asked Chuck Daly, I said, Chuck, put me in the game.
So that's why you ended up joining the Bulls?
No, I wound up getting in the game, and why I was allowed to join, because they took Dennis Rodman, they took James Edwards, who also walked off court, but they realized they were following what the leadership of the squad at that time was, the way that Bill Lambert said, let's hand it off to them the way the Celtics handed it off to us.
Okay, so did your teammates, were they angry at you for shaking their hand?
I think so.
Yeah.
Ask me how many fucks I give. and they know that. They know that I always was, I don't think so. I'm more like Larry. That's why I love Larry David. When I watch Larry David's show and I watch it, sometimes I go, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Nah. I'm that guy.
You're that guy.
I don't think that's the right thing to do. And I wasn't doing that to MJ. I wasn't.
Well, recently there was some articles that came out, and there was an unreleased interview with Kobe attacking Shaq. Do you know about this? Okay, so let me get everyone up to speed who doesn't. So I guess it was their final season, Shaq and Kobe. There was a statement that was issued through Jim Gray, a writer.
Yeah. Journalist.
A journalist.
Well, let's say who Jim Gray is. So Jim Gray also was the one who was talking to Mike Tyson after he bit off Holyfield's ear. Jim Gray is also the one talking to Pete Rose. Jim Gray is also on the podcast with Tom Brady. So Jim Gray has been in the middle.
Yeah.
All right. He's been a friend of mine for 40 years.
Woo.
All right. I talked to him a month ago. His wife put me on FaceTime with him. We were getting on a flight out of Atlanta. I'm telling you, but Jim Gray is blessed enough to be in all of the places that are important. So when it comes out of Jim Gray as a journalist, you got to understand it's coming.
Legit.
It's legit.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
So basically, in the statement from Kobe, it was 3 or 4 paragraphs long, and it was an unmitigated slaughter, calling out Shaq on everything. It was like he had saved this up for years. It was about Shaq delaying his toe surgery and burning part of the season to recover from it. Shaq not being in shape. Kobe considered himself much more committed to the game. Kobe lived and breathed it and was obsessive about it, and Shaq was not. Kobe said he said that a guy selling donuts at the 7-Eleven had more pride in his job than Shaq did. Called him out for being fat, lazy, the whole surgery thing, everything else like that. And I guess that all hell was about to break loose, and they didn't put the article out because Jim Gray's relationship with Shaq. But Shaq actually found out about it, and he went ballistic.
And then Shaq left the end of that next summer. He wanted to be traded.
Yeah.
And they were able to do a deal with Miami. One, we're only going to see you twice a year. Two, Pat Riley is giving up, hey, bring him down here. It's the end of his career. It'd be good for him. He's out of Florida. Everything worked out for him. And he realized that Kobe was the future of the Lakers.
Yeah, I guess that Gray had reached out to Shaq for a response, but he refused and he threatened to kill Kobe. We're learning about this.
But I tell you, Shaq said it too. Nobody that we know that we've worked with was as committed to this game than Kobe. It became a crazy obsession to the point where a lot of players put a gym in their house, right? But when you watch with him and his daughter, and there's weights over there, and there's the court, and he has on flip-flops, and no matter what, he has to be on that court. That's obsessive. But it worked for him.
Yeah, it did. Shaq basically started calling him Trader Gray. He said, "Oh, here comes Trader Gray." We just wouldn't talk to him.
But think about what happened. And I'm gonna say this because it caused the reaction in Shaq that we had never seen. And now we understand why we saw this reaction in Shaq. Kobe says that article doesn't come out. It's going at that point. Mm-hmm. It's terrible. The next summer, Shaq comes out on September 8th. This thinnest we've ever seen him since he was drafted on Miami. They do this whole big thing, the MTV Awards in Miami, and Shaq is in the best shape we had ever seen him. That's to prove I'm not fat, I'm not lazy. Yeah. Look at what. But it took that, and it took Pat Riley saying, "Hey, you got to ride the bike." Because in Pat Riley, you got to ride the bike half an hour or 45 minutes before you practice. And you're in it. You're in a spin class. So he got him in shape because he was injured, right? So you can't really do anything unless you do the arm tread. But what it did is it lit a fire under Shaq that made Shaq win a championship that year.
Right.
So I remember that. And I'm not going to say anybody is lazy, but Shaq had an infinity of gaining weight, right? Phil Jackson, when we first got here in 2000, was like playing him as much as he can because he was like, if I can't get him down to the weight, I'm going to have him in playing shape. Mm-hmm. By the time we were going to the playoffs, Shaq was in the best shape I had seen him in a long time. But he was not in the shape he was that when he went to Miami for that first time to prove that article and Kobe and everybody wrong. So it lit a fire. It was a blessing. What did Nietzsche say? I know philosophers would say, amor fati. Mm. It's you have to love the fate. You have to enjoy. You have to enjoy it and understand that all of those things put you right where you are. Everything you not makes you everything you are. I think Kanye said that.
Do you think that Ime Udoka is going to coach again in the NBA?
I wish he would have gotten the net job.
Yeah, because there was a rumor that he was going to the Nets.
That would have been
did not happen.
I think it would have been a great thing if he got the net job. And I'm a friend of Nia Long. And if Nia Long was so good about being quiet about it and not talking about it, I take my hat off to her. She knows things like this do pass.
Yeah.
So God bless her.
I mean, while you were playing for the NBA, were you having relations with other employees of the organization?
No. So
Never.
that was another thing too. I don't think she was an employee.
Well, no, the person that he allegedly slept with was an employee.
Really?
And I believe was married at the time and so forth.
Oh.
I'd actually heard some other stuff that I'm not going to put out there about, I think there's multiple women, and one of which was kind of high up the ladder in terms of her husband and so forth.
Well, then, and I'm going to say this, and I'll say this, and I don't know what the truth is, but it takes two to tango.
Absolutely.
And he didn't rape them. So.
At all.
So those were 2 consenting or 4 consenting adults who agreed that if we can find some space, we're going to find out some space. And that's that. That has nothing to do with, and that's in any part. I mean, there's tons of places that tell you the only cheerleading squad allowed to date the athletes are the Raiders.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's you're the only one. You're known. You can't date cheerleaders. They tell you that. Don't date the cheerleaders.
I mean,
you can't.
Look, when I had Nick Young on here, he mentioned one of the players that, one of the teams he played on that was messing around with the cheerleader. I think Matt Barnes said that he may have dated some people, some of his teams. Some teams, they just don't care. It's like, whatever.
Well, it gets in the way. It gets in the way. Obviously, you see, it gets in the way of greatness because he was on the verge of greatness.
Yeah, I mean, he was in the finals his first year of coaching. I mean, and the Celtics are doing really well this year also, which is not.
It's also proves that his team, but it's also proves that they built a strong enough team.
They built a strong team. Listen, I'm personally like, you're right. It's 2 consenting adults. I mean, shit. Elon Musk impregnated one of his employees. Bill Gates got married to one of his employees.
Right.
Like this, you put people in the vicinity, things are going to happen. Me personally, as a business owner, I always thought it was dumb. And I always stayed away from me getting into relations with employees because I feel like there's so many possibility of disaster. I sleep with this person, it doesn't work out. Now I have to potentially fire the person, or I can't fire the person because they'll bring up what happened, and I just like.
So then you should realize you've been set up from the beginning that the person was only secure. They didn't really like you. They were secure in their position.
Exactly, and so to me, it's almost like, Ime has this incredible opportunity, and he's just thinking with his dick, like it's just dumb. Let's just take the Nia Long shit out of it, even if he was single.
Right.
You don't shit where you eat.
You shouldn't.
You shouldn't. And here's what happens when you do. You're given an incredible, and some of these, I can imagine if you got like Miss Universe that you like, some of these pictures would come out like, wow, you fucked your whole career up for her. Okay.
But it's really, and this is what I say, it really had nothing to do with the female that was in the position. It had everything to do with, as they would say, I was horny. And when you're horny, obviously your brain is not getting the blood supply you're normally supposed to get.
You could still make decisions, man.
And guess what? He made bad ones.
That was a bad decision. I don't think
made a bad decision.
No one's sticking up for him. And so
I'm sticking up for him.
I'm sticking up for him. Right.
The point of he's a man that made it a really, really poor decision.
Decisions.
And it didn't work in his favor. It was a poor decision. I'm happy my friend got out of that situation. I'm happy Nia.
So is Nia Long and Ime broken up now?
I think that was the case anyway, right? So I'm only going on what I didn't talk to her about.
Oh, you didn't talk to her about it, yeah.
But I heard that they were already broken up.
Oh. No, wait. She was moving to Boston.
Right, trying to make things right. But they were going through it.
Okay.
As all relationships do.
Who knows? Yeah.
The best thing about it is she didn't get hurt.
Well, publicly.
She didn't get hurt. She may have gotten her feelings hurt and her name mentioned.
Yeah.
And every time they mention her name, they got to mention him after all the accolades and greatness that people bestow upon her.
Remember when he made it to the finals, she made the video of like cheering and going crazy and everything else like that. Yeah,
and guess what? He now doesn't have that cheerleader.
No, he does not.
He has a different one. That was funny. Y'all, that was funny. Funny's funny. Funny's funny. I don't care. I mean, my cousin Mike Oda would say, funny's funny.
Funny's funny.
A win's a win.
A win's a win. As we're actually talking, an interview came out with Nia Long, with the Hollywood Reporter, talking about the Ime Udoka situation.
Really?
So she actually finally broke her silence. And she said this. She said, I think the most heartbreaking thing about all of this was seeing my son's face when the Boston Celtics organization decided to make a very private situation public. She was actually taking her son to school when the news broke. She said, it was devastating, and it still is. He still has moments where it's not easy for him. If you're in the business of protecting women, I'm sorry, no one from the Celtics organization has even called to see if I'm okay, to see if my children are okay. It's very disappointing.
Yeah, I lost a really cool friend. I didn't lose him, but there was this guy I was really cool with that's famous. And, when you're in the public eye, you have to deal with, which is shitty, the bad part of the public eye. I give you an example. When I tell people and they start talking about people, like we just finished talking about, Nia Long going through that. Mm-hmm. People forget that we're human. I said that before, right? Like they forget that you're into this situation where you're human. The only comedian, one of the comedians who I saw that had to explain to people is Dion Cole when he got on stage and had to explain to people, hey, I lost my aunt, my uncle, and my mom, and I still got to get up here and make y'all laugh. So I think Nia literally saying what's happening with her family on that point, she never really talked about her past fiance. She just talked about, if you really want to protect everybody, protect everybody. Like think of what this is really going to.
Yeah.
But once again, I think they're going to protect their own interests. And when I say they, and the people in the position of power, they're going to figure out it's going to be some collateral damage, and they're going to handle that collateral damage. And Nia happened to be, and her son and the daughter are caught in the collateral damage of bad decision making.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made some bad decisions in my life.
Me too.
I mean, seriously. And when I was on the radio, I got on the radio, I apologized to my wife. I apologized to the girl involved. And my wife was mad that I apologized to the girl. And I was like, Tosh, everybody involved was involved because of my poor decision. The poor decision I made. I make a lot of great decisions, but the poor decisions I made are way less. I got more wins than losses.
The whole situation that happened a couple months ago with Draymond Green punching Jordan Poole.
Wow.
In practice. Number one, all the practices you've been with,
yes.
the Bill Lambiers of the world and all the, the various beefs that happen, inside of a team. Have you ever seen one teammate punch another teammate?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you say who?
It happens so much. The thing that upset me is that we saw it. I'm telling you.
Can you say who?
Vlad would not allow, you should not see the fights. I said that. And in 1990, Bill and Mark Aguirre get in a fight in Portland.
Bill Lambier.
Bill Lambier and Mark Aguirre get in a fight in Portland. And Bill Lambier realized you don't want to fight Mark Aguirre. Let me just tell anybody else out there, you don't want to fight drawers from Chicago. And Mark is a real boxer. And Bill realizes it. And as Bill is backing up like, yo, I stop and turn around and walk in the other way and I'm laughing, right? I'm like, yeah, get him, right? And this is the craziest thing. When I was on Best Damn Sports Show, they showed me the video of me not getting in the way, turning around and walking. You wasn't supposed to see that.
Do they film all the practices? Is that a standard thing? Okay,
they film all the practices to see who is not doing what they're supposed to do,
gotcha. Right.
what we supposed. That film's not supposed to make it to the public. So when I saw Draymond, and this is a trip, I thought about it. I know he didn't think Draymond was going to swing. I did. I knew. When I watched Poole, I watched it, but since then, I tell everybody, if somebody's approaching you with anger, put up your guard.
Yeah.
Right? That's the most important thing. Make sure you keep this left right here. No, if you throwing rights, keep this left right here. But he walked up on him, and when Draymond walked up, I know Poole didn't think he was gonna do whatever. But when he pushed him, he said, yo, back up off me. Keep your guard up. Kobe got in that fight with Chris Childs and wanted to put his chin first. And Chris Childs.
We just interviewed Chris
Childs. I know. I watched that.
We're going to run the clip right now. We're talking about it.
So I'm bumping him as we run down the court, and he shoots me with, elbow like around the neck area. So as we're going around the basket, I say, don't do that again, or it's going to be a problem. And he said, well, what are you going to do about it? I'm like, okay. So we run down the court, come back again. We get cross match. He hits me with another little cheap shot. And so I look at Monty McCutcheon, who was the referee. I say, Monty, you gonna do something about this? Once again, the emoji struck.
Emoji struck.
Right. Once again, I was like, okay, no problem. I take care of it. So we go around the screen, and I said, I told you don't do that shit again. And he walked up on me, so he's a little taller than me, so I gave him a little head nudge just to get him off of me.
Right.
And then once he kind of threw a little choppy elbow, I'm like, okay, I just let him loose.
I like Chris, man. Chris was such a good player. Good guy, too, man.
Yeah, Chuck D actually reached out to me and said he's been trying to get a hold of Chris Childs forever.
Yeah.
And so I put them in contact with each other.
Good, man. Chris was a smart dude. Good guy, man.
Yeah, hit Kobe with a two-piece and a biscuit.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so this is normal. So basically teammates fighting each other. And listen, I interviewed Iman Shumpert, and he said, yeah, like in practice.
Yeah.
J.R. Smith, fist fights, like this is,
constant. Hey, in Detroit, I told the story when Isaiah got in a fight with Tony Campbell. God, bless up to Tony Campbell. I don't know where he is. And he threw a punch and Isaiah dipped. He said, hey, man, this a body fight, man. You're going to be punching me in the face? And Tony and I looked at it like, what's a body fight? But I thought about that after. I remember Bill Lambert got in a fight with me, man. Bill was doing whatever and was up on me.
He got in a fist fight with you?
Fist fight. You know what he did?
In practice?
In practice.
Okay.
And he got me, man. I always say I only got dunked on one time, and then somebody sent me a video of Michael Jordan dunking on me 3 times. But it was all one to me. But Bill Lambert did the whole hockey fight, pulled my jersey over my head. So it happened. It's going to happen. Those fights are going to happen.
I mean, listen, Bill Lambert had a Super Nintendo game called Bill Lambert's Combat Basketball.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a real thing.
No, it's a real thing.
I didn't.
We're actually going to show the picture of it right now. Yeah, it's an actual real thing.
You told me that.
He fought. You didn't believe me, right?
I didn't believe you.
Did you look it up?
Yeah, and I saw it, and I couldn't believe that he really had this, hey, you never know how guys are making money in the league.
Yeah.
He'd make his money. He's a hunter. My boy, Rick Brukowski, and I talk about it all the time when Rick grabbed me by the throat and in a game, and I had to tell him, Rick, it's Sal. It's a lot of things happen. Hey, my first time experience in a fight in practice was Sid Green and Rick Mahorn. It was the first day of training camp. And I don't realize we're all fighting for a job. I'm just happy to be in the NBA. I'm a dumb rookie. And Rick and Sid get into it. And I jump in between. I say, hey, fellas, we're all on one team. Rick punched me in the jaw and Sid kicked me in the leg. And when I was on the ground, they were like, stay out of grown folks' business. And I looked at Chuck Daly, and he was like, get up. And I got up and I was realizing, oh, this is real. This is how it is. I put my mouthpiece in. I never gotten involved in anybody else's fight after that. If I see them fighting, I stand to the side because they got to get it out.
The story behind TK Kirkland stealing Charlie Murphy's watch has different versions of it. Now, you told me that you were part of this whole situation.
I wasn't part of it.
You weren't part of the stealing of the watch. I'm not saying
TK went to Eddie's house with me.
Okay. So, tell me the story.
As I remember,
and just to be fair, TK has talked about this whole watch stealing incident and even talked about apologizing to Eddie Murphy. And Eddie Murphy said, "Hey, man, ain't no one tripping off that anymore."
right. As I remember, it was me, Ronnie Rosenbaum, and TK. I parked on Hutton. We had to walk all the way back down and then up Benedict Canyon because you can't park on Benedict Canyon. And we go into the house. And then I hear, yo, the comedian, TK, he came in with you. He stole the Rolex. And I go, I don't know nothing about that. And then I asked TK, and he said, yeah. And I'm like, dog, what the hell? TK's, you know TK.
Yeah, very well.
TK's attitude and his way of doing things, TK's way of doing things. That's all I know. And that's how I know it to happen. And I felt crazy because I never got invited back. I wasn't hanging around Eddie and them anymore. And I think it was because of that instant. I think it was that situation that I brought that into the house. That's how I understand it. And that's all. That's the only way I remember.
I talked to TK about this. We texted about it. He said it was Keenan Ivory Wayans who introduced him to Eddie Murphy and Charlie Murphy. He said John Salley wasn't even in the game in 1982. That's the year that it happened. It was before
82.
any of us was famous.
1982.
Yes.
Nah, if it was 1982, then that was crazy because TK can't say in 1989 he wasn't with me at Eddie's house. Because if that was the situation, then he would have never been allowed back into the house in 1989. So tell him to check the dates.
There you have it.
There you have it. Check the date.
You guys, at one point, I'll get y'all in the same room or on the phone.
Yeah, because if it was wrong, I had TK would tell you too. If I'm wrong and it was 1982, that happened, that means that I was 18 years old. And I remember TK did a concert in 1989 in August in Detroit, and I paid him to do it. So I remember I was hanging around Eddie and them in 88, 89. I introduced Isaiah to him at Bubble Hill. I'd been to China Club with him, and like 88, 89, 90, those are my years. Those are the years we lost in the finals, then we won in the finals, and we won in the finals. I was flying high in top of the world. So if TK said it wasn't in 89 and that's not when it happened, then I stand corrected. But how would he going to be allowed back into the house if it wasn't with me? Maybe I'm wrong. Then again, maybe I'm not.
I wasn't there. I didn't know either of y'all back then. I'm just connecting the dots. And, I'm friends with both of y'all. Shout out to TK. Great guy. Always been a great guy. You've always been great. Maybe at some point y'all could talk it out.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. But remember, I didn't start smoking weed till I was 36. And I usually document everything in my life. But maybe I'm wrong.
You want to see if I can get him on the phone real quick?
Maybe I'm not.
Hold on a second. Let me see if I can get him on FaceTime.
Yeah. TK.
Yes, sir.
What's up, fam? So.
What's up, fam?
I'm all right, man. You're still crazy as ever. I'm watching you on, and you're still mean for no reason.
Yes, sir.
So it was 1982. Remember, I brought you to Eddie's house in 1989.
No.
You remember?
See how this happened.
Yeah.
So that was like Keenan Ivory Wayans introduced me to Eddie and Charlie. Me, Charlie Murphy, Eddie was at the Beverly Center that day. We all went shopping. And this happened at the house. I didn't even know you in 1982, 83, fam. I was in college.
So wait. How old are you now?
I'm 62.
Oh, yeah. He was way old. So you're 4 years older than me. But then TK, do you remember when after that summer, after we won, you going to Eddie Murphy's house with me?
No, I never went with you to Eddie Murphy's house.
You don't remember the house? You don't remember the house on Benedict?
I want you to listen. Listen, I didn't know you then. So
no, not when you stole it. You saying in 82.
Let me finish talking. You gotta let me finish talking. It didn't. I didn't know you. By the time that happened, me, Eddie, the whole crew was not talking. So I was never nowhere around them for years. Like, nowhere near around them. When me and you started hanging out, me, Faison was coming over to the mansion. This is in the late 80s.
Right.
This situation had already happened already.
Right.
This was done already. This before you was in my life.
And you got to tell people I did change your life for the better. But anyway, so in 19...
Yeah, no, you never changed my life for the better. You a big brother. Well, you're the younger brother because I'm older than you.
I didn't know you were so old.
Your family treated me well. Everybody. Man, we had a great time. But no, I didn't know you then at that time.
Right. So I thought it was in 89, because I'm going to tell you, I'm going to get Ronnie Rosenbaum. I thought in 89 when we were hanging, then that's when it happened. Then I stand corrected. But I thought it was in 89 that they were talking about.
Yeah, this happened in 82, 83 when Eddie Murphy was doing Beverly Hills Cop 1. We was all on the set. So I didn't know you then.
Oh, well, that's not how I got it. Because I remember, I didn't know there was any beef. I didn't even know that had ever happened. And all I knew was like, why'd you bring that cat around here? And I was like, because I'm going to even tell you when we walked around, I even know where we parked now that I live here. And we went when he had bought Cher's house on Benedict Canyon.
No, I never went there with you, sir.
Yeah, I'm get Ronnie Rosenbaum. And he was like, that was the one time, and he always remembers the TK situation. Yeah. And I didn't tell anybody how I know. TK warmed up a concert for me, and I said, hey, you can't curse. You gotta. He said, oh no, I got it. Right. And he went out there and did his entire act as if I never had a conversation.
Okay, so let's stay focused on the topic. We're not talking about the cursing on the show. We're talking about the watch.
Right.
Watch situation is I didn't know you at that time. 2, it was an embarrassing situation. And for the record, since the world is listening, God dropped all the charges back in 1991. So this is gonna be the last time. When Vlad told me that you had mentioned that you took me to the house, I said I didn't even know John Salley at that time. Because this happened way before I met you. Way before I met you. To the world who's listening, I'm still embarrassed by that happening. And I really want this to be the last time in my life that I ever bring this up. Because we're talking about something that happened when I was 21, 22 years old. And to be still talking about this, and I'm a senior citizen now, getting an AARP, is embarrassing because I have kids, I have people who really love me, and these type of things shouldn't be mentioned. Some things shouldn't haunt you for the rest of your life, and this haunts for the rest of my life. But I just wanted to make sure that was correct. I'm glad Vlad got us on the air to do this because that's my man. And John, I hope your brothers and everybody, my girl, that your sister,
Sabrina, yeah, we doing it. Yeah, we are. I'm gonna get your math. And all right, so you're off the hook, and we all forgive you. All right.
No, okay, no, I'm not.
No, you just said that. You shouldn't haunt you. You said it shouldn't haunt you. No, you are. You like you said it. It shouldn't be 40 years old. 40 years of you remembering one thing out of all the things you did in 62 years. So you're right.
Yes, sir.
That's exactly right. All right, TK.
But other than how you been, man?
Every day, man. Every day.
Stay in touch. You were supposed to be a godchild to Aris. Aris is in college, a millionaire now. Well, out of college. He works for the music industry, and he got his own trucking business.
Damn.
He doing his thing. All the kids are doing good. But I do remember the great things and how I used to bring women over to your house.
Hey, TK. I love you. I got to get off because I'm finishing up my interview, TK. All right, TK. All right, TK got to go, ladies and gentlemen. All right, TK. Thank you. So this is what happens. TK says, I didn't go to the house with you. And I distinctly remember Charlie going, he can't be here. And him saying, I thought that's when it happened. was like, yo, he stole such and such. Tony Rutherford, Tony Rutherford was a friend of mine. He used to run security, good dude. He was, matter of fact, one of my groomsmen. Had the conversation. It was like, yo, he can't be around. And so I thought that's when it happened.
All right.
So I might be standing corrected, but all I know is like, yo, you can't come with him. And to him say, no, I didn't go with you. I got this guy, Ronnie Rosenbaum, who I grew up with, who was also 4 years older than me, 5 years older than me. And he doesn't forget. And he'll talk. I said, so when we went, every time I would come out here, I would have Ronnie with me because he moved here with his wife. So when the Pistons came out, Ronnie Rosenbaum would go with me everywhere, to the game, in the locker room, to the parties. I always had to have somebody around me that I knew. I didn't go anywhere really by myself. And when I got around TK, I just thought TK's comedy was amazing, his delivery and his non-care, to the point where I had a Guy concert. I had EU, Guy, and TK did the opening. And this was right after winning the championship. So I know it was all moving fast, but all I remember is, yo, he can't be here. So I may stand corrected about being in when he stole it, but all I know is they were like, this is what your man did.
Got it. Well, recently I interviewed Boosie. As always, interesting stuff comes out of our conversation. It kind of started off with the 21 Savage comment about how Nas is not relevant to today's music. He has, he's a great rapper and he's got really loyal fans, but to today's climate, he's not relevant. Well, let's talk about 21 Savage for a second. So recently, he's been in the news about a comment that he said about Nas. And he said, I just don't feel like Nas is relevant. I feel like he's got a loyal fan base and he still makes good music. And then when someone asked, what do you mean by relevancy? He said, mostly connected or appropriate to what's being done to be considered. Later on, he came back and said, I would never disrespect Nas or any legend who paved the way for me. Y'all be trying to take stuff and run with it. When you heard that comment 21 Savage said about Nas, what'd you think?
I mean, I'll be like the fan asking him, like, what do you mean, what is relevant to him? Because, like he say, he has a loyal fan base. He just won a Grammy. I mean, at that age.
Last year, yeah.
Last year, his records are doing great. I mean, I think he might be saying relevance as to social media. Probably because he's not a social media, but so he's definitely relevant to his fan base, and I don't know. It's what he said. I don't know his relevancy. I mean, it's right. But see, if he's still making music, he's still doing that, he's relevant. If he's not on social media and they're in everybody's eyes, that's what I meant. That's what I took from that.
They actually ended up doing a song together recently. Nas and 21 Savage, which I thought was brilliant. This is how you handle shit, by the way. For everyone out there who, if someone says something that you may not agree with, use it as an opportunity to actually build something off of that. Like how when me and Eneli Chopper were going at it, we did an interview afterwards and ended up being some of our best work. Right. Everyone walked away looking great. The public, he got a whole bunch of new fans and a bunch of people, a bunch of his fans, came to me as well and so forth. So I thought that was dope. But he also said something about Jay-Z, where I actually feel that, my thing is that like Nas is a legendary rapper. To me, he doesn't really move the needle in today's music, but I do feel that Jay-Z does move the needle in today's music. And he actually disagreed. He said that Jay-Z isn't relevant for his music, he's relevant for his money. When you see Jay-Z on your social media streams about these billion-dollar deals and so forth, not really for his music. Like, I think Jay-Z is the only one at his age could drop and like everyone stops and listens to. You know what I'm saying? Like up there with the Lil Babies and the Kendricks and like everyone stops.
Jay-Z's not relevant this day for music.
I think he is.
I don't think he is.
I think he is.
I don't think Jay-Z is relevant this day for me. I don't.
Okay, so
if you're gonna say Jay-Z relevant and Nas ain't relevant, no.
Okay. So let's put it like this. Do you think if Jay-Z dropped a brand new album right now?
No. Just like when I go to these clubs in Atlanta, these 25 to 35 clubs, I'm not hearing Nas. I'm not hearing Jay-Z. Every club I go in is not one or the other, Vlad. I'm in the city. I'm outside. I be everywhere. It's not one or the other, Vlad. I'm telling you that. Jay-Z is respected by these people for being that boss that he is. When Jay-Z flash crossed that motherfucker, it's something with $1 billion. It's something with a 500 billion, 200 billion. When them young niggas see him, it ain't his song flashing across no fucking social media. It's his hustle. That nigga got hustle. That's what everybody fucked up about him relevance right now. No, I'm not finna say that I hear Jay-Z in the club and I don't hear Nas.
I don't know. That verse on DJ Khaled's album I thought was phenomenal, and I thought that it made its rounds. But what is your take on this?
I think Nas's last album, Disease 3, is one of the best albums I've listened to. It literally makes me do things when I put the album on. Second thing, when a player is saying in relevance, you have to understand what he means. What they mean is when they say their name and they say they're going to perform, a whole bunch of kids at this age only understand this. They may like and they'll figure out and like Nas, but NLE Chopper has 14 and 15-year-olds going crazy to the point where Lil Uzi felt Tupac wasn't relevant at one time. He felt the greatest rapper of all time was Lil Wayne, which is debatable. It may be because Lil Wayne had been in it as long as everyone else. Yeah. The deal what they feel with Jay-Z is Jay-Z transcends rapper. So he not a businessman, he's a business man. Right. So that's what he's done. He has literally transcended the idea of a rapper, what a rapper is supposed to look like, what it is. He now is an older gentleman teaching you and still able to be smooth. But I think it was brilliant that they did a song together as opposed to being apart. And Nas will always be relevant because Nas, even in some of his, gang, gun, rapping mentality, has always talked about being a strong community.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Boosie brought up an interesting point. He said that half of Nas's original fans are probably dead now. It's a chilling thought, but actually, I remember even seeing this Nas documentary about Illmatic, and there's this picture on the inside sleeve of Illmatic where he's like in Queensbridge projects, and there's like a mob of all these people around him, and they literally, went through the picture: dead, jail, dead, prison, dead, still in prison, dead, prison, dead, prison, still alive, prison, dead. Like literally like 90% of these people in this picture are not around anymore.
And that's what he used to rhyme about. He used to rhyme, he talked about, when they were 5%ers, but they still was doing wrong. He spoke of it, and it's a sad thing because it's a cycle that has been put into place, and it did nothing but get worse and worse and worse and worse. While some things look they were getting better. I'm from Flossie, Brooklyn. I'm sorry, Canarsie, but it's known as Flossie now, right? Okay. All the Haitians are still in there. And the one thing everyone says is, the one thing that's the same Brooklyn that used to be is Canarsie. Everything is throughout those different neighborhoods, and it can be gentrification and whitewashed, and they redid it and put the Barkley Center up. Canarsie is still Canarsie. It started losing its flavor in the late 60s, early 70s, and now it's the place where people are afraid to go to, that mentality, that Brooklyn mentality. When it used to be mixed with Jewish people, Italians, Polish, Irish, Black, Puerto Rican, a lot of Russian descent in that project is now, it's all like we pushed all the people to disenfranchise.
You were on All the Smoke recently.
Yeah, I was on All the Smoke.
Matt Barnes, who's been on my show twice,
Yeah.
is one of the hosts. I actually reached out to Matt Barnes to interview Steven Jackson, and Matt said, "Oh, he's not interested in doing the interview."
Right.
I'm like, "All right, that's cool." You know, we've actually, you know, Steven, when you watch this, just know that we've actually supported you quite a bit on Vlad TV. Go to vladtv.com and put in your name, and you will see a barrage of articles that I spent money on paying my writers to write about you, because I actually think highly of Steven Jackson. I thought very highly about what he did during the whole George Floyd.
Well, he thinks you got a government grant because you're a Fed. That's
right.
So Steven thinks you're
my
a Fed.
name, I didn't know about this until you told me before the interview. You went on All the Smoke. My name came up.
Right.
You said, "That's my man." Matt Barnes said, "He's good people." Steven Jackson said something different.
Steven, this is the deal. One, I don't know why they think you're a federal agent.
If I am an undercover federal agent, I'm the worst one at this job, because everyone, my cover's been blown for a decade now.
I want to know why they think you're a federal agent. I never understood why everybody thought you were a federal agent. Like, I don't see how that can benefit you. And I don't see where it comes from. Because you know a lot. Dog, if they knew how much, and this is funny, that's why Bootsy comes on, because we know you do your research.
Yeah.
You're not a lazy host.
No.
You don't just say somebody's an idiot. You're not a lazy host. So you have to understand that. And I'm telling people that I've been around Vlad now since 2017, 18.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and you haven't done me wrong. And you haven't showed me a different side. And I believe people show you who they are the first time. Believe them.
Yeah. Listen, Steven
should come on the show.
Well, come on the show or have a conversation with me, because, you know, this whole
Maybe you should go on All the Smoke.
I actually told Matt if he wanted me on All the Smoke, I'll come on the show.
Now they got to know that's big, because you don't like being in front of the camera.
I'm not in front of the camera very often. I only fuck with people who, you know, like the academics of the world and the Charlemagne.
But think about academics. Academics did one of the smartest things in the world, and people would consider it to be dumb, but he was so smart to say what he said, because it lit a fire under everybody.
The whole Dusty.
Yeah, he lit a fire with his wording. Because Joe Budden got the juice when he walked off when he was with the Migos and Academics was staying there. Joe Budden blew up. Academics realized, I got to do this one thing or say this thing. I retract it later. But I learned, man, he shouldn't be caught on camera doing human things. He should figure out, now that he got the platform, now he has to walk a fine line and watch what happens to him in public.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, the whole thing with Steven Jackson is that, like, the whole fuck Vlad thing, the whole Vlad's the feds thing. At the end of the day, I've never had that type of energy towards him.
Right.
I really have not.
People gotta get to meet you, Vlad. This is the deal. A lot of people don't like me. A lot. Let me tell you, a lot. And this is the best thing. I'm just happy they spell my name right. Like I say, it's Salley. If you're going to talk about me, spell my name right.
Name right. Right. I mean,
and now you got to live with that.
Yep. I mean, look, at the end of the day, me and Steven could have a conversation. He's actually been on Vlad TV before many years ago. I didn't do the actual interview myself, but he was actually on Vlad TV many, many years ago. You know, if he wants to have a conversation with me, which will not be recorded, it would just be, you know, two men talking it out, he's welcome to it. If he wants to sit down in this chair you're sitting in right now, and go ahead and bring up whatever issues he has with me, I'll address every single one.
I'll talk to him.
And if he wants me on All the Smoke, where he could benefit from it, I don't do a lot of interviews, but I'll go ahead and do it. You know, and shout out to you and shout out to Matt Barnes for keeping it 100. You know, and actually defending me when, you know, some people would have just stayed quiet and let shit fly. I don't do that type of thing when someone comes on my show. If you're someone I fuck with, you can't come on Vlad TV and trash talk a John Salley or a Boosie or
and then this is the deal.
Or a TK Kirkland. You know what I'm saying? So
I have teammates for 6 years. I had never been to their house.
yeah.
Don't know their kids. Don't know. So when people talk about, had teammates, guys that I play with. One team I played 4 years. One guy, a time I played 6 years. You guys will figure it out. But I don't know them.
Yeah, we've been to each other's houses.
Right.
We know each other's families. And you know it's actually what's interesting. Because we were hanging out on Halloween, right?
Oh, Halloween.
Right. We were hanging out on Halloween, and where we live, there's this big hoopla that happens around Halloween. Right. I'm not going to say where we live, but it's a big thing in our community where literally thousands of people are out. And me and you are hanging out, and one of the neighbors approached you.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm right there with you. And he was just gushing over you to such a degree that it made me feel uncomfortable. I have never really seen this type of, you know, and I've been on, listen, when I was around Beyonce, I was like, wow, that's Beyonce. But like to actually see someone gush and go on, and it almost seemed like you were kind of uncomfortable.
Well, I know the why. Like, I know the, you know, right. Let him get it out.
Yeah.
Don't disappoint them.
Right.
And I say that to guys, don't discount people who love you.
Yeah.
From you just giving them joy of knowing that you gave your all while they were chanting on a team. I couldn't imagine what it'd be like to be a soccer player. I couldn't. Yeah. Being a basketball player is one thing. So I appreciate those, because also in that same arena that he was cheering me in, like he was talking about, there's been a lot of boos.
Yeah.
I got a lot of boos in Detroit. A lot of boos. And so when I see them now when I get older, they go, man, you're one of my favorite players. I said, you booed me too. Yeah, you know, when you wasn't doing your job. So I understand it too. I don't believe in it. I know it's an emotion happen while you're watching a sport.
Yeah, I think you should be gracious to everyone that approaches, and seeing you handle that, you know, where some people would be like, all right, man, cool, that's enough. I got to go. No, you sat there and let him get it all out. And,
get it all out. Tell me more how great I am.
Eventually, he went about his way and so forth. And I tell the story all the time. Like when I met Stephen A. Smith, we were both in line leaving the Jordan party in L.A., and I turn around, I'm like, oh, Stephen A. Smith, what's up? You know, I'm Vlad from Vlad TV. You know, and I'm like, oh, you know, we cover you all the time. And his response was like, yeah, everybody does. And that was one of these moments where I'm like, this dude's an asshole. And I've mentioned this publicly in multiple interviews right now. Mm-hmm. And this is what happens when you do the opposite. When you just brush someone off, right? Now he's probably brushing me off thinking, whatever, some guy with a YouTube channel. Not realizing that there's 5.3 million people on my YouTube channel. And yeah, everyone may cover you, but those people don't have millions of fans and millions of viewers and reach to the point where my interviews end up on his shows.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
But this is the
like
deal too.
You cover me as well. And the thing is that like that little like fuck you kind of whatever attitude, you know, at the end of the day, we're all rich. It really doesn't really matter. But it's like now you got someone who really dislikes you and goes out of his way to broadcast that dislike.
So let me tell you this.
You could have just said, all right, cool, thank you.
It's heavy. You should let it go. It's heavy. Grudges are heavy because you hold them over time.
It's not really a grudge, because at the end of the day, I'm actually monetizing all this. So really, it's not like I'm actually angry. If I ever run into him, I'll probably just mention it. We'll laugh.
He was having a hard day.
Maybe he was having a hard day. I don't know. But I'm just saying that you should be gracious. Listen, whenever anyone walks up to me and tells me how much they love Vlad TV, I always shake their hand.
Gotcha.
If they want to take a picture, their kids at the grocery store, whatever, I'm always nice about it. Good. I'm always cool about it.
That's why you my man's 50 grand. Steven Jackson, come hang out with my boy Vlad.
That's how we're going to end it. John Salley, always a pleasure. My man.
John Salley Show. Make sure you check me.
That's right.
Peace. On your network.